Okay, so arithmetic is the kind where you're adding. Geometric's where you're multiplying. A series is where you're adding up a whole bunch of terms. A sequence is just where you're making a list of a whole bunch of terms. All right, and I tried to get kids to think about, I drop a ball from 4 feet up. It bounces back up 2 feet. Then it goes back down 2 feet because, you know, it hit the ground again. And then it goes up only 1 foot. And then it bounces back down, or goes back down the 1 foot. And then it goes up 6 inches. And then it goes back down 6 inches. So I'm going to write those terms out. It was 4, 2, 2, 1, 1. And it just keeps adding this smaller and smaller amount, but they have to, an infinite number of things, because can't you just keep cutting the height of the ball in half and cut it in half again and cut it in half again infinitely, but yet it adds up to a whole number. So I want you to start with this one. Let's keep it simpler. 4 goes down to 2, goes down to 1, goes down to a half. I want you to tell me what all that would add up to. Well, we need a formula, right? Do you remember me making you take a picture of it yesterday? You've got the sheet of formulas. Go into split screen and bring up that sheet of formulas. And this is the one that adds up to infinity. It's a sum to infinity. And this one is times 1/2. It's called a geometric. So that's the first thing you ask about each sequence is this geometric or is this arithmetic? And this one's geometric because it's cutting half, 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 half. And then you got to look up which formula works for to infinity. And that's the S sub infinity formula. It's the easiest formula. Kennedy, can you read me the S sub infinity formula?
It's U1 over 1 minus R.
1 minus R. Awesome. What is U1, Mr. T? Mr. Tyler? 4. So I put a 4 here. Taylor, I know what 1 is. What's the R? It's the rate. It's that. We times it by a half. Okay? So everybody do 4 over 1 minus a half. I bet you can do 1 minus a half in your head, can't you? If you had 1 and take away half, what do you get? Connor? It's a half. So then it's 4 over 1/2. Now this one freaks people out. So you're like, what do you mean divided by a half? Well, then you just change it to times. I'm going to say 4 times 2 over 1 because I like times by a fraction better than divide by a fraction. And I get 8. What was that? Remember all those bounces of the ball? And it was getting smaller, smaller, smaller? It added up to a whole number because it can't bounce forever, really. I know, it seems like it should because it's infinite, but yet it doesn't. So it's hard to explain, but yet we know that ball would stop bouncing eventually and it would add up to a certain number of feet. Okay, and in the ball example, you actually have to do, there's double all of these because it goes up 2 feet, and then it goes down 2 feet, and it goes up 1 and back down 1. It goes up a half and goes back down a half. So you'd kind of have to double it by 2, but there was only one initial drop. And so that's where it gets much more complicated, and that's what we do in honors if we were doing this stuff. So we're going to keep it simple. We just use our formula, and boop-a-doop-a-doop, it's 8. That's the sum of the infinite series. What kind of series was it? It was a geometric series because we were timesing by something. All right, so there's an example of a real-world problem. I used the ball, turning into just a sequence of numbers. That's what today is about. It's about, can you figure out if it's which formula you should use for the situation, like it's going to be a real-world problem. All right, so I want to know what all 4 formulas are. Everybody pull it up as a split screen on your iPad, so you've got both things up. Connor, can you read me the one that says S sub n?
Yeah, n over 2, in parentheses 2 U1
Yep.
plus, in parentheses, n minus 1 times e.
Perfect. All right. That's to find something like S sub 10. That's the 10th one in the sequence. That's not a sum of a whole bunch of... No, wait, that is a sum. My bad. That's a sum of a whole bunch of things in a series. Sum of first 10 terms. Okay. What's that same thing but for a geometric? Everybody look up on your sheet. Which one's the formula you're going to use for a sum of the first 10 things, but they're a geometric? Because the other one was arithmetic. Eddie, what's the equation where you go sum of the first 10 geometric things? Hint, it's got an R in it. Is the formula with an R in it? I'll come back to you on a different problem.
Geometric?
Yep. Geometric one that's got an R in the formula. You know, it's like R to a power. Okay, that's all the time I can take. I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to Humphreys. Can you tell me the one that is for geometrics where you're adding them all up? So a series, geometric.
Is that the,
It's got an R in it.
yeah, is that the finite sum formula?
Yeah, but yes, finite. Yes, not infinite, but finite. Yep. Go ahead and read it to me.
As S subscript n equals U subscript 1 in parentheses. I don't really know how to like say it.
Isn't it just R? Isn't the next part R?
Yeah,
Okay. To the power of,
n minus 1.
is it the minus 1 up by the N like this?
No, it's
Down low like this?
and then over R minus 1.
Okay. There. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Do you get, if I told you that you had to do this, you'd have to figure out U sub 1 first. Well, everybody knows that one. It's just the first term, right? That's easy. This is the rate that it's going up or down, also known as the decay rate or the growth rate. Okay. This is how many, that's the same as this. See, this goes to that. It's a subscript number. So if you want to do the sum of the first 10 terms, then your N is 10. It's the subscript number. Everybody can minus 1. And then it's over R again. Oh, it's the same R as this. They're the same thing. So if you got the R there, you got the other R. All right, so it's all about just knowing what R and N and U sub 1 mean so you can stick them in. All right. So now I'm going to give you a question that would kind of go with that. You negotiate with your mom who gives you your allowance every week, and you say, tell you what, Mom, I want to make your life easier. You don't have to give me allowance every week, just once a month. But I want $10 the first month. And then I want $20 the next month. And we're just going to keep doing that for 12 months. $10, $20, $40, $80, And those of you that thought that was kind of a crappy deal because you only got $10 the first month, you realize this is going to add up fast. Okay. Am I multiplying by something each time? So then you know it's geometric. You get to keep all of the money, right? So then this is a sum of a series. And there's 12 months in a year. Would you please find the right formula, stick in the numbers, and tell me the sum of all those allowances? I've done the first 4. You don't want to just do find all 12 of them, add them up. That's just the super slow way. We got to use the right formula for this. It's this one. Geometric series. So S sub how many months? 12. 12 is your number of months. S sub 12. And this is the sum of all of those. U sub 1 was 10 times, you should be able to take it from here. Pause for a sec. Use your calculator. Figure this out. You need to borrow a calc? Come on up. Just bring me some collateral. Like your headphones, cell phone, shoe, whatever you want to bring me. So, I'm just filling in this formula here. The next thing I need is this rate right there, the R number. Do you know what that is? Correct. And then I need the N right there. What was the N? 12. And then I need to do -1. Well, I can do that in the calculator later. And then last thing I need is this R right there. What was the R again? 10. Yep. And now it'll be about who can do this in the right order on their calculator. Do you think the order matters? Of course it does. Gotta be careful. The power is supposed to be first, and then you times it by 10, and then you subtract 1 at the end. Exponents are first. Actually, parentheses are first, but there's nothing in the parenthesis to do. So then you go to exponents, then you go to multiply, and last you do subtract. If you're lucky, the calculator does it for you the right way if you just type it in. But it won't if you tried to type it in exactly. You'd need to at least do 2 minus 1 in your head. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So the denominator is just 1. So type it in if you haven't already. Did you get 40950? Raise your hand if you had that right. Awesome. Remember, this was an allowance question. I think most of you would take $40,000 for your allowance. It'd be a pretty sweet deal. Okay, so try to talk mom into that one. So, but don't be angry if she halfway through goes, "No, what? I can't do this anymore." All right. So, do you get that that was a real world problem and I turned it into just stick numbers in a formula? And that's what it's like. So here's some problems like that. Let's skip over this one. This is just talking about there's 2 kinds, arithmetic and geometric. And then there's 2 kinds to that. There's the kinds where you just want to find the term, like U sub 10, and the, like that. And then there's the kinds, you know what, let's do one. Let's do a geometric recursive formula. U sub 1 equals 10. U sub n equals, and I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to make it times by 6. Can you write the formula for that? And I know some of you are going to forget something critical. Give it your best shot. Eddie? You didn't answer that other one, so I'm going to be coming back to you soon, so pay attention. J. James, what comes after U sub n? Always right there, every single time. You remember or not?
What was the question?
Just what comes here? What goes right there? We're just trying to write a formula.
10?
Nope. U sub 1 equals 10. U sub n is equal to U sub n minus 1. Okay. And then what are we supposed to do each time? Multiply it by what? Kennedy?
6.
And then Kennedy's probably one of the kids that would remember the domain too. I said a lot of people are going to forget this. See if you're one of them. You got it, Kennedy?
Is it n is greater than or equal to 2?
It is. There is a recursive formula for starting with 10, timesing by 6 each time. All right. So the nth term, that's this part. But one of our formulas would tell us, so we don't have to actually do this. You don't have to go 10 times 6 is 60, times 6 is 360. And then you don't have to keep doing that in your head. If you want to find the U sub, let's say, 15th term, there's a formula for this. You got to know first, is it geometric or arithmetic? And it was geometric. And then you got to know, is this the kind where you just want to find a term, or is this the kind where you want to add them all up? This is just find a term. Adding them all up would be called a series. All right. Okay, moving on. This is our list of all those formulas. I do want to remind you that there's doubling up here. This is the exact same formula there and there, so I kind of don't like that. I really wish that they kept them separate, but if you really want to find the series formula, that's this. That's for adding up a whole bunch of terms. Same deal, there's a repeat here and here. But if you want to find the geometric sum, there's two kinds. There's finite and infinite. If I asked you to add up 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and I said to infinity, do you get it would never stop growing? The only kind that you can do this on, the infinite kind, you can't do that if it goes to infinity. You got to be doing it only on the kind that are geometric and shrinking. So like 12, and then half of that is 6, and then half of that is 3, and then half of that is 1.5. I can figure out what that adds up to. Would you please do that using this formula? Figure out what that series would add up to. It's the easiest formula that there is. Eddie, what's U sub 1? You can't tell me what the first term is? Oh, U sub 1. That's all that is. Okay, so I put in 12 here. Keep going. All right, so this was a rate of a half, and so therefore it's 1 minus a half. So now let's actually finish this thing. So we got 12 over 1 minus a half. 1 minus a half is a half. So this is the same as timesing by 2 over 1, so he's right, 24. That's what that whole series would have added up to. Any questions about that one? Okay, moving on. So when should you ever use U sub 1? Usually you use U sub 1 for your formula. But when should you ever use U sub 0? This says right here, U sub 0 used in for our formulas. Well, sometimes we have it in the formula. All right, and it's helpful to know that this can be used, and I've given this example when you could use it as a real world situation, especially if there's something that happens before 1. Would you agree at your first day of school, there was a moment you started it, and then there was the end of the first day? Do you get something happens in between 0 and 1 at a day of school? Okay, so you actually probably got a little shorter What? Yeah. The longer the day goes on, did you know you're actually shrinking all day long? And then you go back to bed and your discs in your back swell back up again with fluids and you get to be taller. And you start your day at your tallest. So anyway, between 0 and 1, something's happening. So anytime there's something happening between 0 and 1, it's a good time to use this as the start of your formula. Start with u sub 0. All right, so let's do this stadium one. It's kind of important. In the first row, there's 10 seats. They usually put it in a curve because like the people that are talking are up on the stage here. And then in the second row, it's a little bigger. It says that there's 10 in the first row, and then there's 8 more in each row. That means there's 18 in this row, and then there's 8 more seats in this one. 26. 8 more seats in this one, and I think you get the idea. It's going up. It started with u sub, I would use u sub 1 in this problem. Because this was the first row. Was there anything between 0 and 1 row? No, there was a first row. But if there's time involved, that's a good time to use u sub 0. All right, so let's do this one that has u sub 0 in it right here. In 2020, the population of a city is 847. That seems like it should be in the answer. It's the time it started. I'm going to call it time 0. Because when there's time involved, after 1 year, you know, the city's going to either grow or shrink. Austin, Texas, right now. It's growing like crazy. Super huge, like it's like doubling in population over just a really short period of time. Partially because Tesla moved a huge factory there and they got tons of people that are going to work in that factory. And then other people are moving to the town because of that. And so Tesla's part of the reason, but it's Austin is growing a lot. So between the year 0, which is when you start, and year 1, there's going to be a change. That's how you know you should use u0. 847 to start with. Then you always do u sub n equals u sub n minus 1. And then you got to figure out what happens. Everybody think, what do you think growing by 7% means? Please don't say 0.7. That's totally wrong. Growing by 7%. You got to put it here. Connor, you got this? Growing by 7%.
The V1
Yep.
plus
Yep.
0.7.
0.07, if that's what you said. But that's what you should have said anyway. 0.1 plus 0.07. Good. Okay. So it started with this, and this is the next line, and then this is really going to annoy some of you. N is greater than or equal to not 2, 1. What? Because this is the first term now, then you change this to a 1. You know, most times it's going to be n is greater than or equal to 2. You'd be right if you just guess n is greater than or equal to 2. But if you can do it really right, you have to go, well, if this one's a 0, then the second term is really n is 1. So n has to be greater than or equal to 1. It's always 1 bigger than whatever the starting term was. Okay, talk about something that would happen a lot between like time 0 and time 1. Bacteria cells. They do grow really fast. Like how many, like an infection, for example. Okay, and if you have 300 to start with, well, that sounds like u sub 1 equals 300. Wrong already. Why? What should it be? U sub 0. Why? Because this is an experiment that involves the real world and something happens from before we hit 1. Something's happening in there. Okay, u0 equals 300. Always un equals un minus 1. Then it's usually multiplying by something. This is tripling every hour. would you agree that times by 3 would make something triple? So that's why there's a 3 there. Oh, and n is greater than or equal to 2. See how many chances there are to make mistakes in this unit? It's not n is greater than or equal to 2. What is it? One. Yep. Okay. All right. You buy a cell phone contract where the first month's bill is $50. Ooh. U sub 1 equals 50. Now, will anything happen between U0 and U1? The first month's bill is 50. Do you think that there's going to be, oh yeah, by the way, month 0 was more than 50 or less than 50? No, that doesn't make sense. I think we could start this with the U sub 1. But actually, if you had said U sub 0, I would have taken it because it's a real world problem. You can start with U sub 0 if you want to. Okay, UN equals UN minus 1 every time, all the time. Increase in price by 5. If you wrote this, and I'd cry a little bit, but I'd have to mark it wrong because you just said times it by 5. Those parentheses would mean times. So I can't have them there. But there, that's going up $5 each time. Does that make sense? So like I said, you could start with U sub 0, and I'd have been okay with that. But then you'd have to know that your first term was really U sub 0. Oh, and then the little domain thing, n greater than or equal to 2. As long as it's 1 bigger than that, I'm doing it right. Okay, this was the hardest day for a long time, so I'm glad you guys have been paying attention. I know you've been trying. So, I think this is the part where we should just do one more together, and then we'll start your homework. After knee surgery, your trainer tells you to return to your jogging program slowly. She suggests jogging for 12 minutes during the first week. Ooh, was there a week 0? I don't think so. There was week 1. "12 minutes. Always UN minus 1. Now, does this feel like the kind of thing where we're going to multiply it? Well, let's see what it says. Each week after, she suggests you increase by 6. Do you think she said times by 6? No. Increase by 6 means plus 6. So I'm going to put a plus 6 here. Stop in the record. Okay, so we were picking between those two domains. This one won and this one's not it. So there we go. Cool. But wait, now I have to use that? How many minutes can you jog in the 20th week? Did they want you to add them all up? No. They want just the 20th week. That's U sub 20. Do you get you to have a formula for that? You could look it up on the sheet. Parker, would you please look it up on the sheet? You probably still have it split screen. U sub n is equal to, I think it starts with U1. This one we're adding each time, so it's arithmetic, so look for the arithmetic.
And it's this, okay, I'm not paying attention.
So do you have the sheet of formulas?
Yeah.
Look for the one under arithmetic.
Yeah.
And not the kind that you add them all up, not a series,
Okay.
but a sequence.
Okay, so then it's U0 plus N.
U0 or U1. In this case, we used
Yeah,
U1,
yeah,
okay?
U1. Okay, so plus ND.
Plus what?
ND and times D. That's what it says in the sheet.
Okay. I feel like it should be, isn't it n minus 1? Oh, that's if it's U sub 0. We didn't use U sub 0. We used U sub 1, so find me the formula that starts with U sub 1. It's really close to there.
It
Doesn't say that sheet? Formula on the sheet? Oh, wow, okay. That's the one I've been telling you verbally, but apparently it's not on there. Maybe you should add it. It's U1 plus n minus 1 times d. since I used U sub 1, you should do it this way. Okay, so what is U sub 1? It's the first term. What's the first term? Save us some time. What is it? Say it.
20.
First term is 20?
Wait.
I know what you do. I think you're finding like that there's 20 terms. No, no, no. U1 here is the first term in our sequence. So go up here. 12. UN equals 12 plus n minus 1. What's n minus 1? Well, what's n? N's 20. So 20 minus 1 is 19 times d, the common difference, which is 6. And a calculator later, you go 19 times 6 plus 12. And I got 126. Anybody else get 126? All right, good. What does that mean? Did I just add up a whole bunch of terms? No. I just figured out the 20th term. That means if you kept up this system, the jogging minutes would be 126 minutes. It's a lot. It's over 2 hours of jogging. I know people do that, though. Okay. Now we should start your homework. So everybody open up the homework. I looked at it ahead of time. Okay, we're going to start with number 1. We will skip number 2.
Number 1, decide to have Mountain Dew at lunch.
Okay?
Mountain Dew contains 77 grams of sugar. Your kidneys are able to filter out 30% of that sugar in one day. Create a recursive formula to represent this situation.
All right. Then U sub 0 can be 77. I shouldn't put the grams in there. We'll just know it's grams. What do you always have next in your formula? Every single time. Pluto, what was always coming next? What always comes next in the formula? First we say U sub 0 is 77, and then we say, keep going. Yep. And then is this the kind where we're adding something each time? We're multiplying by something. I like to say 1 minus, and that would be 0.7 total. So if you would have said 0.7 instead, I would have been fine with that. I like to write it as 1 minus 0.3. Other people like to write it as 0.7. Cool, there's my formula. Oh, and for the kids that want to get all the points on the test, n is greater than or equal to 1. Because it has a 0 here. We always go 1 bigger than that. Yay, there's my formula. Now if I actually needed the answer, then I'd go to that sheet full of formulas. And I'd go, well, which term do you want? Like U sub 5? And I could look up that formula. I'm going to give it to you again. It was U sub 1. No, wait. This is a U sub 0. So then you can take it off the sheet that you have is U sub 0 is... Parker, can you read me that formula again that had U sub 0 in it?
Yeah, U sub 0 equals, or sorry, U sub 0 plus ND.
Plus n times d. And n is this. N is the subscript. And d is the common difference. So U sub 0 is 77. Plus n is 5. Times the d is the common difference. It's this, but you could just say 0.7, it'll be a little faster. And that's your answer. You have to use a calculator to get it. All right. So if all they wanted was the formula, this would have been good enough. If they wanted the actual like fifth term, it'd be something like this. Just trying to help you get ready for the test. So that begs the question, when is the test? It's coming. Looks like the test there'll be another day of word problems tomorrow, like just making sure you get this, because it's kind of hard. And then there'll be a review day on Monday. And then on Tuesday's the test. Okay? All right. Remember, you're skipping problem 2. The rest of them, if you get stuck, please come up and ask. I want to help you. If you didn't already, I'd put this formula on your sheet. S sub n. If you want to start with U sub 1, it'll be like this. If you want to start with U sub 0, it'll be like this. They're a little different. Okay, so you should have both of these on your sheet. This one and this one. I think for some of you, it's not, one of those is not on your sheet. So if you start with U sub 0, you got to have a formula for that. If you start with U sub 1, you got to have a formula for that. Okay, that's all I have for the video for today.